So, how is everyone? I hope you're all well. This is the other little bugger. Look, there he is. He loves a bit of fuss, don't you? He loves a bit of, look, say hello to the camera. Say hello to the camera. That is the one, the only, little annoying, don't punch me in the face, you little loser. Yeah. He's a nightmare, that one. Old Casper. So, if you're here for the dog is currently on the naughty step for trying to sit on the poor cat's head and suffocate him. So he's been timed out. Anyway, what are we talking about? I'm going to talk about a couple of things. The first thing is going to be regarding a stabbing that happened earlier this year. Now, I'm going to share this with you. Now, this could have absolutely nothing to do with it. Nothing whatsoever. I just find it a little bit interesting, and you'll see why in a second. Look. So let's go back off that. We're going to come back to this thing here. But, so this was a frat house stabbing, just the start of a busy weekend for Davis police. You think, what's the relevance here then? What are you getting at? So a stabbing investigation at Davis fraternity house was stalled after officers encountered uncooperative witnesses. What are you whinging at? Bloody whinger. Uncooperative witnesses, including the victim of the crime. So what we've basically got here is a stabbing, and nobody wants to say anything about it. Not even the victim wants to say who it was, what was going on, anything about this whatsoever. But this victim was stabbed multiple times at the Theta Chi or Chai or XI, Theta Chai, at 515 First Street, where the knifing interrupted a party in progress. One of the party participants was stabbed multiple times at the house, sending him to the hospital in critical condition, Bezuglov said. But then officers tried to determine what happened. Every single participant at the party refused to talk to us. Absolute stonewall. And there's actually not really any other piece of information on this, just that someone at this Theta Chi house, house, it just turned into a complete Greek wall of silence. Done. Bosh. There you have it. But, so what's the relevance here, I hear you say? So, they have a house, Theta Chi fraternity at the University of Idaho, which is here. This is right here. This building here. And then you've got, obviously, other University Idaho buildings around the area. But when you go and look at where our 4 victims were and go to here, which is 1122 King Road, we have just here. So across the way from 1122 King Road, we have the Theta Chi, whatever, house, where we know has a connection to a stabbing earlier on this year that got completely stonewalled. But would these guys or girls or whatever, we're thinking guy, we're thinking powerful, strong, athletic, a car that potentially doesn't come locally because nobody really has mentioned this car as a local car. But would there have been any reason for anybody from this place to be here on this weekend? Which brings us to the 2022 football schedule for UC Davis. And what we have here is on November 12th at Idaho, they came in and played the Idaho Vandals, which places some of the members of that sorority house, or you know, the other house, not girls, boys, in that area on that day. And again, this could be completely coincidental, and it most likely is. But what I'm trying to say is, look, there's so much stuff out here. There's so many things going on, and these and if you actually look at the UC Davis and put in stabbings, I'm telling you, it's like they're stabbing each other left, right, and centre, all over the place, going back a decade or more, where people are it just seems a regular occurrence. But there we have it. We have a connection, a link that could link an already stonewalled multiple stabbing in a property, in a house, during a party, and a link that links them to this area just happens to be on the night that 4 university students were stabbed inside a property, and we're currently seeing no call of anything and currently being stonewalled. And there we have it. We can think of that what we want. It could be absolutely nothing, could be reaching, but we're just trying to help. And that's why we now talk about Hannah Claire. Hannah Claire, for those of you who don't know, seems to be, at some point, she was a roommate of one of the victims, namely Maddie. And there was speculation, and it is speculation, that Maddie, along with some others, were bullying Hannah, and Hannah took her own life earlier on this year, the start of the year. Now, it was ruled as an accidental overdose from over-the-counter sleeping aids. Now, one thing I will say is, over-the-counter sleeping aids are generally less powerful, so you have to take more of them to become effective. And certainly, if you're going to be unaliving yourself with them, you have got to take quite a volume. And then it becomes arguable as to whether that was indeed accidental or not. But some have pointed out, look, it could. If she'd had some drink, some alcohol and took it, but then you think to yourself, if you've had enough alcohol to make that mistake, are you going to be struggling to sleep, or are you likely to pass out under the influence of alcohol? I've done that quite often, and I imagine a lot of you have. So that is questionable. Now, Hannah's father, Scott, has come out and he has said, look, there is no connection to these murders and what happened to my daughter, so let's leave her out of it. And I think that says a lot. Is it because he just doesn't want his daughter and her memory to be connected to this, because that could then look bad or bring his daughter's name into a negative situation? Nobody's going to want that. And there is nothing whatsoever substantiated that you can find that says whether this is a fact or not, that she was bullied. And the problem is, universities, they tend now to hide these sort of things anyway, because I believe it was a few years back, there was a high profile suicide within a fraternity house or a sorority house, university, and it was publicized by the university. They reached out, but then subsequently there was 4 or 5 over the 2 weeks or so after that event. So it was a blanket decision that in the event that this happened, it was kind of more hidden, and they didn't sort of reach out and make a big thing of it, just to protect the wealth and the well-being of those around it. And I can appreciate that. I can fully understand that. But at the end of the day, the issue that you have here is, because you know that these things are hidden, you know the difficulty or the potential difficulty in unaliving yourself with over-the-counter medication, and it has been said, and there clearly are some people, whether it just be, even if there wasn't any connection there, you kind of wonder why that came up in the first place. Why did the trolls, if you like, even go that route, talk about it? there's a lot of people who are nothing to do with this case who probably wouldn't have ever even known about that. Because there's so little of it out there. There's nothing really that says it. So it makes you wonder where the initial spark to this flame was. And was it someone who genuinely does blame these, or one of these victims, for what happened to Hannah? And that will probably continue to remain a question as time goes on. Because again, there's nothing substantiated that backs up that claim. All we have is people hiding behind fake usernames and making the claims and trying to form a connection. But, and this comes with a big but, it would sort of go hand in hand with this kind of situation if this was indeed an attack based on retaliation, based on retribution, someone who had simmered for months and months about the loss of someone perhaps close to them, or the knowledge of what happened and that feeling, that bubbling feeling of when the seemingly superior students do this to someone else. And, you know, maybe in their mind even, it doesn't even have to be real. It just has to be that someone thinks it. And I can tell you now, there's going to be a lot of people out there looking at this case who now thinks that these victims were potentially bullies that deserved what they got. And that will happen. So imagine if this has been simmering in someone else's mind over the last few months and it eventually snapped. So if it wasn't someone who came in from somewhere else and done this, and it is someone in the immediate vicinity, and we are talking about the fact that this could have indeed been targeted, and we know that what the professionals class has targeted is the fact that someone had an interaction that pushed them to this situation, what could that have been? Let me know down below where you are, and I'll catch you all in the next one.